Reddit, what's the worst time you've walked in on someone? Walked in on my brother with cotton fever. If you don't know what that is, that's a good thing. I learned that day. It's when someone shoots heroin and gets the cotton fibers in their bloodstream. It caused him to shake severely and throw up a lot. He claimed it wasn't dangerous, but it scared me forever. Of course it's not dangerous. It involves heroin. Lol, right? I was basically like, I don't know a lot about heroin, but I'm pretty sure you can't use not dangerous and shooting up in the same sentence. Would like to report my brother is 2 years clean from that incident. Good on him. Not a sex story, but it was by far the worst thing I have ever walked in on. Growing up, my brother and I would play a prank on each other where we would put ourselves in a situation to fart in each other's faces. For example, he would be taking a poop in our bathroom that had a sliding pocket door right in front of the toilet. I would sling the door open and fart because his face would be pretty close to my butt. It was all fun and games. Then one day my brother yells at me from his room asking if I want to play N64 with him. Of course I did, so I fling open his door to play, only to see him standing on a chair, with his naked ass right in my face. His timing was impeccable. His sphincter control was not. He sharted all over my face. I was in the shower in about 5 seconds. He was on the floor laughing. My parents refused to believe that he crapped all over my face until he finally admitted it at my wedding a couple of years ago. One day when I was very young, my dad called for my mum from their bedroom. She was outside gardening when he was called for her, so I relayed the message that he needed her for something. She didn't want to stop what she was doing and told me to go ask my dad what he wanted. When I opened the door to my parents' room, I found my dad sprawled out naked on the bed with a hard-on. I took one look and immediately booked it out of there and made sure to never enter my parents' room without knocking and announcing myself first. In response to those suggesting incest, you all are fucking nasty. Nobody wants to help poor old dad. When I was young, maybe 4 or 5, I was hungry for some mac and cheese. I didn't know how to make it myself, so I walked into my parents' room to ask them to make some for me. When I walked in, they were under the blankets moving around a lot and making noise, so in order to not be impolite and interrupt them, I just sat at the foot of the bed and drew pictures of flowers until they finished. Parents were mortified. But I got my mac and cheese. You were a very well-mannered kid. I am sure your father appreciated it. I'm sure he did. After I learned exactly what I stumbled upon, I made sure to learn how to make it myself as to not terrify them again. Walked in on a guy crying while wiping his ass. He was squatting on the toilet and shouted, "Stop, stop," looking at me without even looking at me. Ran the hell out of the house. Context: I've told this story countless times, IRL and on here, and I'm telling it once more. My friend 1, invited friend 2 and I over to his house one day. He wasn't home yet but left the door unlocked for us to hang out inside until he came home. Friend 2 and I make our way inside and head up the stairs. Upon going up, we start to hear soft weeping. We both look at each other quizzically and proceed with caution. The weeping led us to the bathroom where the door was cracked open a bit. We peeked in, moving the door, and saw what was described. This was friend 1's roommate and we don't know what his deal was. According to friend 1, this wasn't a case of diarrhea. His roommate has some type of ass wiping fetish, addiction. No idea why he was crying. Not exactly walking in on someone, but my little brother used to just leave the door open while he went to the toilet, and if you happened to walk past while he was in there, he'd scream, "Don't look at me," real loud. Could give you quite a scare if you didn't know he was there. I'd cry, but this one made me laugh harder than any of these in this thread. As a young teenager, 13-14, I had a job as a weekend stock boy at a neighborhood deli. Always 2 clerks on duty on weekends. Way too busy. We kept the beer in the basement. It's my job to move it up to the walk-in when I've put the last pack on the shelf. Unknown to me, one of the clerk's boyfriends had come in while I was restocking the walk-in's shelves. I came out of the walk-in and went straight to the basement. There was one of the clerks, pants at ankles, her BF right behind her, railing her like there was no tomorrow. She screamed "Get out" at me. I ran back upstairs, straight into the walk-in. 10 minutes in there, processing what I had seen, in comes the BF. I couldn't look at him. Got my first man talk from him. Then he got his girl, and she came into the walk-in. He made me look her in the eye so she could apologize to me. It was still a few hours before I could talk to her in anything more than a mumble with my eyes at the ground. And when I later relayed the story to my friend, the only response I got was, "You should have asked for a turn." As kids, we played hide and seek on rainy days. It was my turn to be it, so they hid and I counted to 100. I checked every upstairs room but the bathroom, and I opened the door when I heard something inside and discovered my friend's mum taking an aggressive bathroom break. Things were awkward for a while with my friend's mum afterwards. My cousin uses the bathroom with the door open. I walked into the basement to get a can of soup to cook. I turned my head briefly and full on saw her naked on the toilet. We did not talk for a few hours after that. Too busy doing something else. We were meant to be having a meeting with security, to get yelled at for hosting bitch and beer pong events. Also, noise complaints, and one of our flatmates, Crazy Dave, he called himself, wasn't responding to our knocking on his door. So my friend decided to see if Dave's door was unlocked, and it was. It was. Crazy Dave was right there in front of the door, lying naked on a yoga mat, masturbating furiously. When he heard the door open, he leapt up, giving us a good look at his crazy cock, while screaming, "Never come in my room, you should never come in my room." Like, yeah, Dave, I'm getting that impression. Only Dave can come in his room apparently. I wouldn't say walked in during the act, but clearly after something went down. Went to a female friend's house for a party the summer after my freshman year in college. The males at the party were my friend who brought me, and all the other guests were female. Anyway, it starts getting late and everyone is getting drunker. A woman takes my friend's hand and leads him into an empty bedroom, and I don't see them for the rest of the night. In the morning, I wake up to one of my female friends looking for my friend and her friend. She was the other woman's ride and she needed to leave. I tell her I saw them going into a guest room last night and that I'll go grab them since my friend is my ride and we should probably head out as well. I go over to the closed door of the bedroom they are in and knock, but don't hear anything. I knock again. And again I don't hear anything. Either they are still asleep, or they aren't in there, so I slowly open the door and creep in. What I find has been seared into my brain, both for the shock and sheer hilarity of what I see. My friend is passed out, drooling, stark naked, curled up in the fetal position at the foot of the bed, no covers, no sheet, nothing but his ass staring at me. The woman is passed out as well, but resting at the top of the bed against a number of pillows and looks like she's practically sitting bolt upright. Her mouth is open and she's snoring. She is covered with blankets and sheets from the waist down. However, her shirt has been pulled up around her chin and her bra was off, so her big boobs were just hanging out in the wind. Once I got my brief eyeful, I crept back out of the room and shut the door. I turned to other woman in the hall and say something to the effect of, "I found them. However, your friend is in a bit of a compromising position and I don't want to wake her up and freak her out." The other woman looked at me funny and then entered the room, closed the door and then took a beat before I hear her yell, "Jesus Christ, cover your tits, we have to go." "You put some pants on, I can see your dick. Woke up is waiting for you in the hall." They both stumble out of the bedroom bleary-eyed and hungover. My friend, still naked although he's holding his jeans and shirt over his crotch, just gives me bright smile once he sees me. It was a good night. I got walked in on. I was in middle school and there was a box of wet wipes that had a little rubber slot where you could pull the wipes out of. Being a horny little kid, I pulled the lid off of the wet wipes box and stuck my erect penis through it. My mum came home suddenly and saw me with my dick through the lid, sitting on the couch watching porn, and let out a scream. She closed the door, waited a minute and came back in. It was never mentioned again. Did it at least feel good? As a former teenager, having attempted to fuck a great many things that bore the slightest passing resemblance to a vagina out of mad desperation, I can say with confidence that it did not. So my friend headed back to his dorm room from a party. He told me to come back later and smoke with him. After a while, I went back to his room, knocked on the door. There was no answer. I figured he was asleep and would want me to wake him up, and the door was unlocked, so I just walked in. The lights are all on and he is lying in his bed, passed out, with his pants around his ankles and a handful of what I thought was whipped cream. I took one look, said no thanks and walked out. I had no idea what he was up to in there. The next day I found out that he had gone into the room, started to undress but passed out. Another mutual friend found him that way, put some shaving cream in his hand and tried to tickle his nose so he would smash it into his own face. But he was so passed out that he didn't do it, so the guy just left him there.